Hello, this is Kelly Hamon, and welcome to the Resiliency Coach podcast. This podcast showcases people who have faced difficult times and how they got through it. These experiences are real and sometimes raw. The people who share their stories are here to tell you you're not alone in your struggle. They share the tools and resources they use in healing. If you're looking for solutions for getting through tough times, contact us at www.resiliency.coach. So today I'm interviewing my friend, Lori Christensen. Lori struggled with PTSD for many years. Medical professionals told her she was stuck with it, but she found a way out and into healing herself and others. So Lori, thank you so much today for being on my podcast.
Oh, you're so welcome. And thank you, Kelly, for having me.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure. So Lori, would you mind telling us your story?
No, I would actually love to. um, I was severely abused as a child, both my brother and I. My uncle and my dad were in a cult. And so we were exposed to some pretty horrific stuff, so much so that I guess as a child, when you're, well, anybody that goes through trauma, if your mind isn't able to handle it at the moment, it will put it in the back. And then as your mind is able to deal with it, it will come forward. In my late 30s, I started to have flashbacks. And it was pretty devastating. I'm a mother of 5. And I was a single mother, so I was trying to work and deal with my medical condition, because I would literally, when someone has a flashback, you're not just feeling it in your memories. Every cell in your body is reliving it. The trauma was pretty severe, and when I would have a flashback, I would actually go into a seizure. It's not like an epileptic seizure. It's almost like a panic attack on steroids. My body would just go into overload. Western medicine at the time wasn't familiar with that type of a seizure. They didn't connect it to PTSD, not until, actually, it's kind of a recent discovery. So back then, Western medicine really didn't know what to do with me. They tossed me back and forth. They tried giving me seizure medication. They over-medicated me. And there is 2 weeks of my life that I will probably never get back because, I was over-medicated. And they pretty much said this was my life. And I lost my, from 36 into my 40s, the seizures got worse and worse. But I was devastated. As you can imagine, I had 2 and 3 jobs, raising my kids, to buying a home, and I lost it all. I lost it all. But part of my memories, I also remember where I went, where I checked out to as I was going through the abuse. I call them my guardian angels, so to speak. So that kind of helped me, keep a grip on things. But I was lucky enough to be introduced to a psychologist from Japan that brought Eastern and Western medicine into his practice. And I learned self-hypnosis. I did go through the hypnosis. I was really hesitant because I had this vision of hypnosis, that he could make me do anything I wanted to. But that's not the way it worked. But as we worked through that, I was able to actually experience the memory without physically going through it. So I actually taught myself how to go through that memory and face it without the physical torture. I also learned meditation. I had to change my diet. I had to exercise because with all of that comes stress, and I had to really learn how to take care of my body. The meditation and the hypnosis is different. Everybody kind of thinks they're very similar, and there is a fine line, but they are kind of different, but they both help. It took me about 10 years of constant work. I'm not going to tell you it was easy, but I'm going to tell you it can be done. I weaned myself off the medication, and with my diet, exercise, and I meditated 3 times a day. And part of the residual effect of abuse is your self-esteem is null and void. You are damaged goods. And that's how you talk to yourself. That's how you feel. There was at one point when I couldn't even look people in the eyes. When I would smile, I would cover my mouth because I thought I had buck teeth. Yeah. And I was programmed to harm myself if I ever told. So the first time I ever went into a psychologist, it triggered that programming. I was unable to keep food down. I got down to like 89 pounds. They had to give me medication to keep my food down. So there was a lot involved with my healing. But most of all, I think the spiritual aspect of my healing was the most powerful. Because through trauma, especially as a child, you disconnect. And when you disconnect, you're disconnecting from yourself, you're disconnecting from the people you love, and you're disconnecting from your world. So you have to learn how to reconnect. So that's what I did. And that's where meditation come in. Because I had to become self-aware, so I couldn't see the signs when the memories or the anxiety was going to kick in. So I learned a lot about my body and my triggers, and I'd done a lot of self-affirmations. There's a science to this. It's called neuroplasticity, right? When you go through a trauma, or even just in a negative environment, and you learn this self-talk, you develop these neural pathways that you're gonna go there every single time. But if you can reverse the way you think, or your thoughts, the way you talk to yourself, you'll start to build other neural pathways. And that becomes more natural than the negative one the more you do it. And it takes some work. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to be really willing to work at it. And so that's kind of what I was doing in my meditation. And I've done a lot of visual meditation. As far as healing, I learned how to just start at the crown of my head, go all the way with my organs and everything. I have tried several different types of meditation. I would meditate 3 times a day, along with my exercise. And I made sure I got that time in, because I needed that reprogramming. And I finally got to a point to where meditation was a natural state for me. So I could actually have a conversation and be in a state of meditation and totally coherent. I mean, it's amazing. It was amazing. Like I said, it took me about 10 years uh, to rid myself of the seizures and the severe anxiety of constant, and it was constant, you guys. I'm not gonna, it took some work. But the spiritual aspect, I even apprenticed as a shaman to get reconnected to all of my surroundings, because the indigenous ways were kind of intriguing to me. They had no word for I. It was all we or us. And what I learned through my journey was every thought I had and everything I was doing in my mind and in my heart was reflecting on everything around me. And being a mom, I didn't want to put that on my kids. I took what I learned and I teamed up with a clubhouse that dealt with the mentally ill. We were partnered with Mental Health Court. So I developed programs where we took him out. We would take the clients out to a garden, and we'd start from scratch, right from the soil, and teach them how to garden. But we would also remind them that that soil had a lot of things that their body had. So you shared a lot of things with that soil. So right from the soil to the seed, and they began, it was amazing how they began to reconnect. I remember at one time, a little guy that had lived on the streets of Vegas had become so disconnected. He was homeless and, he got addicted to drugs. He was self-medicating. But he told, we done an interview because we had a study done on us. And he said, for the first time, I'm going to get emotional. For the first time in his life, he noticed the sunset. He felt the breeze on his face. So that's what this kind of work does for people, and he had come a long, long way. So they actually the U of U done research on the work we were doing and done a white paper and introduced it to the individuals that were attending the first mental health court conference in the Western region. And it was quite a good feeling to know that I had been able to pay back, because in this page, they told them that our ways was the missing link to reintegrating prisoners back into society.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And there's a lot of healing that comes with helping others that have the same problem too, or the same issues. I'm not even going to call it a problem, because I look back on my experience now and I consider it a blessing, and it was horrific. But if I hadn't have gone through that, there's no way I could have helped others. So how could it be bad? That's kind of my way of thinking.
And I heard a number of different tools you used. And when you found he was a psychologist or a psychiatrist, which was he?
He was a psychologist.
Psychologist. Was it something you were in? Was he somebody you were intending to find? Was it something that you just found?
I actually met him at a family support center. He was volunteering there, and it was just synchronistic.
That's great. And so you found him, and he taught you different non-traditional modalities, it sounds like.
Yeah.
At the time. And so at first you were involved in Western medicine, which medicated you, and sounds like therapy they were trying to give you at all. Is that what they were trying to do?
No.
No, just medication.
I did try different different psychiatrists. In fact, I was diagnosed by a psychologist at Hillfield Air Force Base, and he said it was the worst case he'd ever seen in a civilian. But at the time, they really, this has been 30 years ago. So, they don't really tie it all together. Yeah.
And you said that hypnotism, you were a little concerned or afraid to go into it. But you found out that it was different than you thought it would be. So one, what did you have wrong preconceptions about? And then why did you find out it was different? Tell me what the difference was. I've experienced the same thing, not with the PTSD, but with hypnosis.
Oh, yeah. So, most of us are exposed to hypnosis on a stage. You see people doing crazy things, but that's not how it was. I mean, I had total control over my mind. If I needed to snap out of it, I could snap out of it. So it wasn't like you see in entertainment. That was my concern. Like, I didn't want someone putting something in my head. But it was much, much different.
And you said there's a difference between meditation and hypnosis. What is the difference?
So meditation is a form of deep hypnosis, but you go back in memory, and you're going more back into your subconscious mind. And I think that the meditation, now this is just my own personal experience. I'm not a doctor, but the meditation helped me to get like in tune with my inner self. But the hypnosis actually helped me to bring forth all those memories and cope with them.
You said that you were disconnected and that you had to become connected to be able to work through that. You used exercise and diet, as well as hypnosis and meditation. Were there any other tools that you used that I didn't list yet?
Pressure points. Have you ever noticed a child when they cry? A lot of times they will put their fingertips or their hands over their eyes and rest their fingertips about where your eyebrows are. Well, there are pressure points there. And when you start going into, if you get fearful or whatever, when your blood leaves your brain and goes out to your outer extremities and you shake, like certain, like touching just above your eyebrows really gently will bring your blood back to your brain. And with your breathing, you can relax. There's also a place where you can tap just in your chest. So a lot of that, the pressure points and stuff like that, that really helped me to control my anxiety.
That's awesome. And so the pressure points and tapping, is that correct? Or both of them simultaneously?
Just alternating, whichever worked.
That's awesome.
I think healing is an individual process. You got to find out what works for you.
Absolutely. And can you describe tapping just in case our audience hasn't experienced that yet?
Tapping goes through different areas of your face, down to your shoulders. You're tapping. And
tapping with what? Because I can't see you.
Just your fingertips. I'm sorry. Just your fingertips, gently tapping on certain areas. You can Google it, and yeah, it's really easy to find. Without a visual, it's kind of hard. I'm a visual person. My hands are all over the place. Anyways, so hope you folks out there, you'll know what I'm talking about when you see the videos. But there are different, and yoga is great. Yoga is great.
So did you use yoga also as part of your? That's awesome. In the program you were running through the prison, was it a prison that
it was actually
doing?
Just a clubhouse, but we worked with. Have you ever heard of drug court?
Yes, yes,
Okay, so
yes.
well, they
Okay.
have mental health court as well. So
Okay.
if you've been diagnosed with a mental illness, they kind of have you go through the court that way instead of incarcerating you. So
Hmm.
it's pretty cool. And they
Yeah,
would go
that
to the
is.
clubhouse. We taught them life skills. We taught them, some of them even had to cook, pay their bills, do inventory. So they learned some trades. We trained for their jobs, people with bipolar that would, and schizophrenia that would needed to work. But we even trained with them on their jobs. So when they had to take a day off, we would go.
That's cool. That's
So
really
learn
cool.
their jobs. Yeah. And then we worked the spiritual stuff in as well. And it done really well.
That's neat.
Yeah,
That's neat.
we lost our funding, but
Oh, gee.
2008 thing kind of put a crush on everything. But I went on. I've got my nonprofit transitioned into transitional housing for alcoholics and addicts coming out of treatment.
Is that something you're still doing then?
Yeah. But I knew, so I kind of, they're not using like my programs. Like, I mean, some of it they do because nowadays meditation is everybody suggests it, right? But so what I found out, because my son is an addict, that once he got through treatment, there was nowhere for him to go in this area. There was no housing, nobody to really help him. They were just back out on the street. So I transitioned that nonprofit into housing for them. It's so far, it's so amazing. I mean, it was just, I mean, it was meant to be. The funding, everything just happened, boom, boom, boom. But I knew because I wasn't an addict, and I'm really into the peer-to-peer thing, been there, done that. So, you can't bullshit me type of thing. Anyway, so all of my trustees, all my board members, they're all recovering alcoholics and addicts. I'm the only normie. So what they call me.
What do they call you again?
The normie. I'm the only normie. I says, you don't know. You wouldn't be calling me normie if you really knew who I was. But it's done very, very well. And we house 15 men at a time. Our donators are wanting us to put in a women's facility. We've been there for 3 years. And we've never been in the red. We always have money coming in. And we've done only 3 fundraisers. It's amazing how it's all worked out.
That's awesome. And so what's your goal for an addict that gets sent to your place? They usually get sent to you by court system, or how does it happen?
No, we're actually now what we're doing is once they've gone through some kind of treatment, then they come to us for housing. We still charge them. We have a scholarship. So if they need the first couple of weeks paid, but they come to us, they have a tracker that helps them get on track. They get a job. They have housing. We have apartments. Each apartment houses 3 people. We do work with Weber Human Services. So this is the local mental health place, that works with the state. And they will pay for them to stay with us for like 4 months. So they at least can get their feet dug in and on the ground. And prior to that, nobody had that. So it's working. I've noticed is because even with the 12-step program or other programs, they're bringing spirituality into all of that, and it's working. I mean, COVID kind of put a crook in things, but it's helping a lot of people stay sober.
Awesome. And what's the name of your organization?
It's Keystone Recovery Center. before it transitioned into that, I was the cosmic nudge.
Oh, that's cute.
Thank you for all you're doing. You're amazing. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Lori, for all you're doing and the people you're influencing and helping in your community and in the world too.
Well, thank you.
Now, if somebody is going through or has had any similar experience that you have had or is going through that right now, what advice would you give them?
Don't give up. The more you push, you know, you're going to find a way. Don't throw in the flag. You're not the only one. We're here for you. Really, if you haven't tapped into your spiritual self, that aspect, whether you call it God, the universe, whatever you put a label on that is, or whatever your perception is, it's really important to keep that in your life, because we always look at the physical and the mental, but without the spiritual, it's not a full healing.
How did that make a difference for you?
I've always really been kind of a spiritual person. I think it's because I actually passed away when I was 7 years old and came back. So it's always been that, and I'm thankful for that experience, because I think that also helped me through the other, because I kind of had an unbreakable faith. So my experience is, and I call him Father God, you know, creation of all things. And I pray and I meditate to listen. That's my spiritual side. I pray and then I meditate to listen.
Tell me the difference for you between prayer and meditation.
Okay, so meditation, well, prayer, I'm actually reaching out to God and thanking that creation source for all that is, my experiences, everything. Meditation is where I can get into a quiet space, you know, that void where if there's any communication, I'm able to hear it, whether it's my body, whether it's God.
I like it. Thank you. If somebody wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
They could contact me via email, which is just my name. It's LORICYEYCHRISTENSEN @gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook. And it's just under Lori Christensen. I'm easy to find. Yeah. And just message me there.
That's great. Thank you so much again, Lori, for sharing with us your story today.
Oh, thank you, Kelly, for having me. Oh, thank you. It was a privilege to do this.
You're welcome.
I hope it helps somebody.
I'm sure it will.
Well, you're definitely one of our earth angels.
Well, thank you. That's so kind.
Definitely need some hope right now.
And thank you, audience, for listening to Lori's story. Remember, there is a way through your difficulty. Please seek out resources and people who can and will help you. Now, remember, if you're looking for alternative tools for handling difficult times or just moving ahead in life, contact us at www.resiliency.coach. Hope you all have a blessed day and a wonderful life. Goodbye.